Good morning, students. So, last time I had told you about first law of motion and inertia. Inertia is defined as inability of an object to change its state by its own. Accordingly, we have three types of inertia, that is inertia of rest, inertia of motion, and third is inertia of direction. Since first law of motion defines inertia, it is also called as law of inertia. Inertia is basically measurement of this inability of an object to change its state by its own. That is, if an object is at rest, it will remain at rest until unless we are applying a force on this. Suppose I quote an example that you kick a ball or you kick a stone. So naturally your feet will get hurt when you're kicking a stone because it was having more mass, and because of its more mass it was having more inertia of rest. Both the object were in state of rest and they could not change their state by their own. We had to apply force to change the state of the object. The object with the greater mass, that is the stone, because of the greater mass was having more inertia of rest. Okay, to quote one example of inertia of rest, like when a bus starts suddenly, we tend to fall backward, right? When a bus starts or a car starts, accelerates suddenly, you tend to fall backward. What is the reason? That is because of inertia of rest. Because when the car was in state of rest, your entire body was in state of rest. When the car accelerates or just speeds up suddenly, your feet, which was touching the floor of the car, comes in state of motion, but the upper part of our body continues to be in state of rest, and that is why we tend to fall backward. Similarly, for inertia of motion, if we apply brakes to a car in motion, we tend to fall in the forward direction. What is the reason? Because in that case, when we were in the moving car, our entire body was in state of motion. So what kind of inertia we had? Inertia of motion. When we apply brakes, your feet, since they were touching the floor of car, they come to stop, but the upper body tends to follow that same inertia of motion, and that is why it tends to fall forward. There are many examples of inertia of rest or motion, like when you shake the branches of tree, the fruit falls down, again because of inertia of rest. Because initially the branches as well as fruit was in state of rest. When we shake the branches, then branches come in motion, but fruit is in state of rest, so it falls down due to inertia of rest. These are the application questions of inertia. Okay, similarly we have application questions of all the laws of motion. Okay, so when question comes on inertia, it's very important to specify that whether it is inertia of rest, inertia of motion, or inertia of direction. Similarly, when a speeding car takes a sudden turn, you tend to be thrown outwards to one side because of inertia of direction. Why? Because we were having inertia of following the same straight line path, but when the car took a sudden change, sudden turn, our body had the same inertia. It tend to follow the same straight line path. So we fall to one side because of inertia of direction. This is the reason that we wear seat belts while driving, because you can fall backward or forward to sideways due to this inertia. So that is for the safety reasons. Okay, so this was about inertia, and inertia depends on which quantity. It depends on the mass. Okay, after that we have the second law of motion. To tell second law of motion, I'll introduce one physical quantity first, that is called momentum. Momentum is defined as amount of motion contained in any object. Suppose we have a car and we have a truck. Okay, both are going with the same speed. Which of the two will create a greater impact if it strikes anything? Naturally, truck, because it was having more mass. So a truck or an object with a greater mass will produce a greater effect or greater impact. Similarly, if we have two cars, same mass, going at different speeds, naturally the one which will be going at a greater speed will produce a greater impact. So impact or effect which is produced by any object in motion is measured by a quantity which is called momentum. Momentum is defined as amount of motion contained in any object, or the impact produced by any object, denoted by symbol small p. It depends on mass and velocity. That is why momentum has formula m into v. Momentum is a vector quantity since it has both magnitude and this is having direction as well, because it depends on velocity. Now, what is the SI unit for momentum? SI unit of mass is kg. As I told you, we can derive the SI unit always from the formula. SI unit for velocity is meter per second. So, SI unit of momentum becomes kg meter per second. So, momentum, which is defined as amount of motion contained in any object, is the product of mass and velocity. Greater the mass, greater the momentum. Greater the velocity, greater will be the momentum. It is a vector quantity because it has both mass as well as it is having both magnitude as well as direction. How is it related to second law of motion? Second law of motion says that force is directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. Now what does that mean? If we want to increase the speed of any object, we have to apply the force. That is, momentum can be changed by applying the force. But this change in momentum, it depends not only on the force applied but also on the time for which the force was applied. How? I'm quoting one example for that. Suppose a car, if it's not it is in state of rest and its engine is not working properly, say, okay, what do? We start pushing the car. A single push will not do. What do we do then? We keep on pushing the car for some time. After some time it will start, right? So that is change in momentum. It does not depend only on the force but also on the time for which the force was applied. So the second law of motion related force and momentum and said that force is directly proportional. This is a sign of proportionality. We say directly proportional to rate of change of momentum. Rate of change of momentum, that is, change in momentum or change in velocity depends on the force, and also it depends that how long that force was applied. That is why we are related by saying force is proportional to rate of change of momentum. This is the statement of second law of motion. Okay, now we will be doing mathematical formulation that we will be doing from the from this definition only. When I told you about rate of change of momentum, I told you that we take, whenever we talk about rate, we take time in the denominator. Suppose we have an object whose mass is small m, u is the initial velocity. We apply a force on object for time small t so that the final velocity of the object becomes v. What will be P1? P1 I am using for initial momentum. Initial momentum will be mass into initial velocity, P1. Okay. Similarly, P2, that is the final momentum, that will be mass into the final velocity. Correct. Then I said force is proportional to rate of change of momentum. How do we write that? F is proportional to change in momentum divided by time taken. What is change in momentum? It is always final minus initial, P2 minus P1 divided by T. But we know the values of P2 and P1 from 1 and 2. F becomes proportional to mv minus mu by T. Because P2 was mv, P1 was mu. I have just substituted the values here. You can take m common here. It will become v minus u by T. But v minus u by T is acceleration, small a. So F is proportional to m into a. This is mathematical formulation of second law which we are doing. Okay, so one more form of second law we will derive from here, that we have derived from the relation force is proportional to rate of change of momentum. Whenever you have to remove proportionality, we have to use a constant. Proportionality means that we don't know the direct relation between the two quantities, that f is equal to 2 times ma or 3 times ma or 0.5 ma, that we don't know. So that is why we use a constant here, small k ma. What is small k here? Small k is a constant. If I say f is equal to 1 Newton, m is equal to 1 kg, a is 1 meter per second square, that is the body of mass 1 kg when we apply force undergoes acceleration of 1 meter per second square. Okay, if we put all these values in f is equal to kma, then k will become 1, right? If all the three are 1, so implies k is equal to 1. So in this case we can say f is equal to 1 into m into a, or f is equal to m into a. So what is f is equal to m into a? That is, force is the product of mass and acceleration. This is also second law of motion. So for second law of motion, you can write force is proportional to rate of change of momentum, or f is equal to mass into acceleration. From here only you can also define unit force. Now what is unit force? Unit force, that is, force will be 1 Newton when m is 1 kg and acceleration is 1 meter per second square, right? F will be 1 only when m and a both are 1. So we say if an object of mass 1 kg undergoes acceleration of 1 meter per second square, then force is said to be 1 Newton. So this is defining a unit force. They can ask you in exam that define unit force. Force will be 1 Newton when object of mass 1 kg is undergoing acceleration of 1 meter per second square. Okay, with that, based on this formula, that is P is equal to m into v and force is proportional to rate of change of momentum, you can practice the solved numericals given in your book on page 120 and 121. Okay, that would be all for today. Thank you so much.